And joining us now on the line is the chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner, all-round good guy and friend of this program, Byron York. Good morning to you, Byron.
Good morning from Des Moines, gentlemen.
Yeah, you're in Iowa, and we want to talk about that. You did talk to Donald Trump while you were in Iowa, and we want to get some thoughts about that. But we want to start by talking about the GOP debate, which is going to take place tonight. I would imagine that if you're in the pack on that main stage, you're this is the time where you got to make a move of some kind if you're going to have any traction at all.
You absolutely have to. You know, the very last debate before Iowa is January 28th, and there's some people who complain the RNC scheduled that so late before the February 1st caucuses that it wouldn't have a lot of effect, but this one will. And so I think you're going to see, I'm really interested to see what happens between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, not just the birther stuff, but New York values, and now this Goldman Sachs story. I think you're going to see Jeb Bush, again, trying to get in it.
Our audience may not be up to speed on the Goldman Sachs thing. Give us a little primer on that.
Well, we've had a report in the New York Times, basically, that Ted Cruz helped finance his run for the Senate in 2012 by getting an unreported loan from Goldman Sachs, where his wife, Heidi Cruz, has been an executive. And so I think, and Ted Cruz, of course, has railed against bank bailouts at various times. So remember, what you have is Ted Cruz now starting to attack Donald Trump, saying that Trump has, quote, New York values. Now, he hasn't exactly suggested what those are, but he kind of suggests they're not Iowa values. But now Donald Trump can say, well, what about Goldman Sachs? So if these guys want to throw mud at each other, they can do it.
Byron, do you expect there to be a lot of mud tonight, or I get the sense that a couple of these guys, especially on the outer breaches, like John Kasich and Jeb Bush, and isn't it amazing to talk about those two on the outer sides of the stage? I have a feeling that they're going to try to throw a Hail Mary tonight, that they've got to really do something to cause a ripple, or am I wrong?
It was very funny. I went to a Jeb Bush event the day before yesterday in Grinnell, Iowa, and he was asked afterwards, what's your debate strategy? And he basically said, try not to think of it as a debate. I mean, he's not done well in these things, so now he's trying to fool himself, saying, well, okay, this is just a town hall. It's not a debate. Don't get all tense and tight. I don't know if he's going to come out with guns blazing, but you have to think that some of these guys who are lower in the polls, and that would include Jeb Bush, are going to do that.
All right. So while you're in Iowa, you actually do an interview with Donald Trump, and tell us a little bit about the timing of it and what you learned.
Well, he was doing an event in Cedar Falls, had a rally there at the University of Northern Iowa. I talked to him before that on his plane, and I think the theme that came out of the interview was that he is thinking ahead to a general election. Every time he said something about planning or what he could do in a general election, he would stop himself and say, "I don't want to think too much about that because I still got a lot to do," because nobody's actually voted yet. But I think it's pretty clear he is thinking ahead to the possibility of facing Hillary Clinton.
Everybody in town here is looking at Iowa and thinking, well, the big question is, what does Donald Trump do if he loses? Because so much of his posture has been about the fact that he's the front runner, he's the leader, he's a winner, everything he touches turns to gold. But the numbers and a lot of the reporting from Iowa, you're there, you tell me, is suggesting that right now it's a very real possibility that he won't win Iowa. What's your take on that?
Well, absolutely. He has not been, there have been a number of polls in which Cruz was not the leader, in which Trump was not the leader, and the leader was, in fact, Ted Cruz. So I think it has gotten pretty tight. Remember, there was a Des Moines Register poll, which is kind of thought of as the gold standard out here, in December that showed Ted Cruz with a 10-point lead over Donald Trump. Well, the newest one just came out yesterday, and that lead is 3 points. Cruz is down 6, Trump is up 1, and by the way, they're more than 10 points ahead of anybody else. So it seems to be a Cruz Trump race. So it seems to me to be somewhat even, and perhaps Cruz having the edge. So the possibility of Trump not winning Iowa, I think, is pretty significant.
All right, but I mean that's to be expected that Cruz's lead would be eroded given the fact that the Donald is spending millions of dollars on advertising in Iowa.
Well, he finally has actually done some ads. I've heard some, by the way, some positive ads driving around, some radio ads. You've heard kind of what they call bio ads, where Donald Trump, he's a good man, he's built a great company, he'll make America great again. So there's some of that as well. But right now, the question, I mean, the only question really is whether Trump will bring new voters into the process, whether these people who come to his rallies, and Trump rallies are bigger than anybody else's by a pretty big factor, whether they will actually come out and vote. There's a lot of skepticism among some political insiders, certainly among his rivals, who say, oh, no, those people come out to see Trump because he's a celebrity, but they won't actually go to a caucus and vote. The Trump people say they're organizing this, and that they actually have signed up a lot of these people who are dedicated. I know I went to a Trump rally in Clear Lake, Iowa, where the temperature was 0 at the beginning of the rally, and people were lined up for a long time outside the building to get in. When everybody left, it was dark, windy, and -2. So I'm not sure that this argument that they won't turn out in cold weather is really valid.
Well, but that's turning out to see him, not to stand in a church or a schoolroom and wait and say you're going to vote for him. I mean, I remember Howard Dean. Remember Howard Dean in 2004? He got all those crowds at his events, and then they dried up.
Absolutely. Howard Dean's campaign did not survive contact with the voters. I will say that Trump people are trying to Trump people are trying to convince people that going to a caucus isn't that complicated. Basically, what you do is you show up, you sign in, you listen while some people say, you'll have designees of the campaign. Somebody gets up and says, Jeb Bush is a good man. Somebody gets up and says, Marco Rubio is a good man, et cetera. And then you vote and leave. They're not actually that complicated, but we'll see if people show up.
Yeah, it's a time commitment, though.
Yeah.
Real fast, one more thing on tonight's debate. Rand Paul looks like he's not going to show up for the undercard. What's the rumblings out there from there's still a strong Paul contingent, such as it is in Iowa, isn't there? Are they saying that as kind of a churlish move?
Well, Paul actually, in this new Des Moines Register poll I just mentioned, Paul did pretty well.
Yeah.
And he's up a couple of points. And if it were based on the Des Moines Register poll of Iowa, he certainly would have qualified. He's ahead of some people who are on the main stage. So I don't think it's hurting him with his supporters, but the bigger thing that's hurting him is the sense that he has slowly slipped away and is no longer a factor.
Yeah. All right, we'll leave it right there. Byron York, a pleasure. Thank you.
Enjoyed it, guys. Thank you.
You enjoy Iowa, sir.
Yeah.